Yo, what's good, y'all? We back yet again with another video. It's a new week, new topic to talk about. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Hawks because, man, it's been pretty disappointing. Considering expectations, the Atlanta Hawks have been a pretty disappointing team this year. And I just did not think it would go down like this. Going into this season, I had Atlanta as a top 5 team in the East. I think I had them anywhere from 4 to 5 like they were last year because I thought that the Bucks, Nets, and Heat were going to be top 3. But I did not think it would go down like this. They have fell. Now, as of recent, they've been playing better basketball. I'm not going to say they've been always bad. I'm not going to be like, that they're one of the worst teams in the league. But, I just didn't think they'd be this bad. I thought they would be a pretty good team. I thought they'd pretty much be what Memphis is right now, but I thought they would be that this season. And they're just not. I thought they would go, confidence would be super high, guys would take another step and becoming one of the league's best teams. It just hasn't gone that way. They made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, lost in 6, and if Trae Young doesn't get hurt in that game 4, stepping on the ref's ankle, who knows? Maybe the Atlanta Hawks are going to the NBA Finals because it was a close series. But so far this season, though, it's just been the complete opposite. They've dealt with injuries to guys like Bogdanovich, Hunter, Capella, other guys on the roster. But also, the Hawks have just been an inconsistent basketball team. And when you're an inconsistent basketball team, you're not going to go far. I'm a Knicks fan. Trust me. I know. Especially, though, on the defensive end. They've been horrible. I mean, when I mean horrible, they've been horrible. Like bottom 5 defensive team in the league, horrible. And they got a elite shot blocking big man, but they've just been bad. They're ranked 25th in opponent points per game, last in defensive rating. And when I think about it, I just think it comes down to personnel on the roster. Maybe there's scheme issues, and that's coaching, but I think it's more so personnel issues. Outside of DeAndre Hunter, Onyeka Okongwu, and Clint Capella, they've got average to below average defenders on the roster. Trae Young, horrible defender. Bogdanovich, not a good defender. Kevin Huerter at times can be solid, but I'm not going to sit here and say he's a 3-and-D guy. John Collins, big man, but he's soft in the paint. They got no real defensive guys. So when you look at them defensively, they're not really an imposing team. They're not physical. They can't handle physicality. So they're just not good on that end of the floor, and that's why they are what they are. But on offense, though, it's a whole nother story. They got a lot of offensive weapons. They're led by one of the league's top young stars in Trae Young, who's having his best season so far. And they're one of the top offenses in the whole NBA. So that's why I still say there's hope for this team to make the playoffs, because they're currently 1.5 games out of the 10 spot in the play-in tournament. They just got to improve on the defensive end, because last year they were an average defensive team. It's not like they were great. They were a middle-of-the-pack defensive team, and they got by, and that was the result. They went pretty far because as a result of it. They were a good offensive team, but an average defensive team, and they combined it, and they were pretty solid. This year, though, they got to step it up. They have to. We saw this team last year. They were fearless, young. They were not afraid of that big stage, but now reality is settling in. They came into this season as the hunted, and it wasn't like last year. Last year, they were the hunters. They were the guys trying to go after the big dogs. This season, coming into this season, they were one of the big dogs. So teams like the Sixers and those teams like that, they saw what they did, and they knew what they had to do. And the Hawks are struggling to deal with that situation. They can't handle it, and that's why they're 12th in the Eastern Conference so far this season. There was even a quote earlier in the year when Trae Young said, and I think they were good at this point, I think it was still early, they were a pretty solid team, that the season was boring. Regular season is boring. Bro, that's not how it works, bro. You have made the playoffs one time in your career, you had a pretty good run, and you're saying the regular season is boring. Now I get atmosphere is not the same, the intensity is not the same. But you still have to play these games, because if you don't play well in these games, this is the result. You might not even make the postseason. It sounds ignorant, and right now they're getting hit with a reality check because of stuff like this. I've also heard a lot of Hawks fans say, though, how bad head coach Nate McMillan was. And, last season he took over after Lloyd Pierce got fired. And he did a hell of a job. He did a hell of a job. But so far this season, I've heard a lot of Hawks fans say how bad he's been, how bad rotations have been, schemes have been, and how they've cost him games. So I'm not going to sit here and say he's a great coach. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a horrible coach. But remember in Indiana, he always had that middle of the pack team and it just never went anywhere. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I really like their roster though. I like their roster. They just got to make adjustments soon, because this team, I said it before last season, I said they're going to be a force real soon. And then the season went, and they went on that playoff run, even though I didn't think they would make that playoff run. And, they proved my point, that they're going to be a force. This season, they're not a force, but I still have hope in this team. I had them being a top 3 seed in the East before the season, or top 5 seed in the East before the season started. But when you're playing this bad defensively, you're not even going to be close to that. They just need to be average on that end, like they were last year, because you cannot make the playoffs being one of the league's worst defensive teams. You can't be a good team in this league being bad, horrible at one end and great at another. When you're horrible on one end and great at the other, this is the result you get. An average to slightly below average team. Now, I'm only saying I got hope for this team because they got a top 5 young core in the league. I'm not going to sit here and disrespect the players on that team. They got talent. That's why they made that run last year. They got talent on this team. They got a top 5 young core. And I still believe they can be a really good team one day. But if they want to make the playoffs this season, if they want to make a run at it, they got to make adjustments, because defensively, this is not going to get it done. They're playing better as of recent, and their schedule is actually getting easier as the season goes along. But they got to get better on defense, and they also got to get better at home, because I think it was last week after the Knicks had beat them, they said that Atlanta had lost 10 straight home games. Now, I know they beat the Bucks after and they stopped that streak. But when you're losing that many home games, I mean, come on. That's crazy. You can't even protect your own house. So you got to protect home court, and you got to play better defense. And if they can do those two things with the offensive firepower they got, the Atlanta Hawks, I think, will have a real good shot to be back in the playoffs by the end of the season if they do those things. Anyways, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Link will be down in the description below. This has been a checkup where we talk hoops and hoops only. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.